Gaslighting is a toxic form of manipulating someone into believing what you want them to believe. You're basically grooming them. So since it's so toxic, why would somebody do it to themselves? They do, in fact, do it to themselves. A fair amount of my clients, when they come in, whether it's in a relationship or for individual counseling, we discover along the way that they are actually gaslighting themselves. And the reason, the most familiar reason, is people who gaslight themselves were gaslighted as children. They were gaslighted by the people that were supposed to love them. Their parents promised things they never got, told how horrid they were. And so they grow up believing this, and it's a form of abuse, and they usually attract other people to them who continue this because they see it as familiar, as a family they grew up in, and it feels, even though it's disgusting, it feels comfortable. But then there are those people that develop it as young adults when they're really impressionable and they're on social media, and because their skills for getting together with other people, they might be more introverted, they're not as good, they become dependent on social media, and what people say to them can make them feel like they're liked, accepted, or not. So somebody can just write a mean comment and wipe them out for the day. Or maybe they are on social media, or they're hearing other people brag and show pictures of their perfect life. They're just inundated with it. After a while, you can start asking yourself, what's wrong with me? Why is my life so messed up when everybody else's is so good? Well, everybody else's isn't so good. It's just because you're gaslighting yourself, you're manipulating yourself, sabotaging yourself to feel this way. There are basically signs and symptoms of someone who does this, and I'm going to list those now. The first one, you make excuses for other people's bad behavior. Instead of calling somebody out or saying that was rude or that was disrespectful, that was impolite, I'm not going back around that person anymore. These people excuse them like they think those people that act rudely are better than they are. And so they give them an excuse why it's okay for them to act that way. They invalidate their own feelings. So if they're feeling sad about something, rather than them saying, I better be aware of this and take it easy on myself, pamper myself a little today because I've had a rough weekend, they're hard on themselves and they're critical and they're like, you're a baby, get over this. You're stuck in the past. Sometimes you get the feeling that something that happened in the past that may have been your fault, or you assume it was your fault, and you get stuck there. Like you just cannot move on. You can't forgive yourself and get up the next day and go, you know what, it takes two to tango. It wasn't all on me. I own my part. They didn't own theirs, and let it go. You think you're too sensitive. So many people, I've told you there's something wrong with you. You're broken. Or, why are you so sensitive? You begin feeling you're too sensitive. But sensitivity is a wonderful thing. And usually people that are more sensitive are also more compassionate. So I want you to remember that. Maybe you're not too sensitive at all. Maybe you're too sensitive to hang around people that abuse you, which is really an important point. Be self-aware and get away from them. You always second guess yourself. You need a lot of reassurance. Those people many times are sabotaging, gaslighting themselves. You doubt your memories. You remember harsh things or hurtful things, and for some reason you just can't take it seriously. You give the other person an out. Like there's an honor code you can't break, because you'll say things like, well, they did the best they could, or I'm sure I was bringing out the worst in them. Stop that. That's gaslighting. You are an adult, or you were a child. However people treated you as a child is on them. They knew better. You were the child. Your thinking is supposed to be a little immature. Theirs is not. You convince yourself that things aren't that bad. Even when they are that bad, you're trying to get the spirit back, or you're trying to be a survivor. Listen, some things are really bad, and it's okay that you cry and grieve and ask for help during those times. That doesn't mean you're weak. That doesn't mean you're broken. That means you're healthy. That means you have a self-esteem. People without a self-esteem many times gaslight themselves because they can't assert themselves. They don't feel strong enough in their own power. You have a strong inner critic. Now, the inner critic is pretty ripe in all of us, but when it's so strong it begins beating you up at night, during the day, then that means you're probably gaslighting yourself. There's something wrong there. You always find a way to blame yourself. If you are the blame for everything, it's a form of gaslighting, but it's also a form of just staying like stagnant, because you'll never be able to get past that. And not only that, you're a wonderful person, but life isn't all about you, so you can't be to blame for everything. I mean, if you rationally look at something, you'll see why that doesn't hold up and why that's impossible, that you would be the blame for everything. What I recommend, the ways to stop, first of all, recognize what's happening. You need to become more self-aware of this. Observe without judgment and understand how this happened. Okay, so it might have happened with your parents. It might have happened with an aunt or an uncle or someone you really loved in your childhood. The bottom line is, don't judge it. If when you start judging them, you begin feeling bad about yourself, then just keep it neutral. But it's important that you see what happened and how you as a child responded to it. Thirdly, practice affirmations to redirect yourself. Start telling yourself the good things about you. Find three strengtheners within yourself and repeat those to yourself. I'm strong. I am consistent. I am generous. Whatever the three things are, your strengths, repeat those to yourself. When that inner critic or when you start feeling badly about yourself, repeat those three things. Focus on self-awareness. No matter what happens, put your focus on what you're responding, how you're going to respond, and write it down in your journal, because this is where the seeds of growth are. Ground yourself. Remember, I always say the best way to ground yourself is keep yourself in the present. What are you smelling? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you standing on? These things are very important because they keep your senses grounding you, because at all times, this is where you are now. I must be by a coffee shop. I smell coffee. I hear coffee type atmosphere people. I hear the music they play at a coffee shop. I'm standing on their concrete. Wherever you are, that's what's important with grounding yourself and breathe. The reason you need to get out of this is this gaslighting was something that was sort of forced on you or groomed into you, but you don't need to live that way. You are not broken. You are responding to a specific pattern of behavior you got from the very people who loved you, who you thought loved you, who were supposed to love you. And when that gets distorted, then it's up to you to reparent yourself and come back. You are not broken. You are a wonderful, viable human being.